Ah, yes, it's time for Jurassic World Alive patch notes 2.9. And thankfully for me, there was a failure to launch on the update today. So it'll be launched tomorrow. Fingers crossed. You know how things go. Something could come up, nothing could come up. We could have a smooth launch, we could have it delayed again. But I'm no longer bitter about the lack of a boost reset. Honestly, there were a lot of people who agreed with me, and they're in the right, of course. And then there were some people who disagreed with me, and obviously they're completely wrong. No, I'm just kidding. Whatever your opinion is, it's your opinion. It's not a wrong opinion. In fact, one of my biggest pet peeves is when someone asks for your opinion and then somebody else says, no, you're wrong, because if it is truly an opinion, then it can't be wrong. But that's neither here nor there. We're not here to debate the boost reset, no boost reset. I appreciate everybody's comments down on my last video on the topic, because it is kind of a hot topic in this game. But let's switch over to something that's a little bit more fun, and let's talk about the positive. Let's talk about what's coming out, and I'm going to do a brief touch on these patch notes. And before I get into the patch notes, I just want to let you know this is not going to be a comprehensive coverage of these notes, because as you're going to find out, they basically reworked all of the resilient class creatures. They're no longer going to slow. Instead, they're going to apply vulnerability. And then that kind of sets off a domino effect of a lot of other creatures have to be adjusted for this new mechanic in the game. And it's not, vulnerability is not a new mechanic in the game, but the fact that resilient creatures no longer slow, but they apply vulnerability, means that they were going to probably beat too many creatures. So in an effort to balance everything out, so a lot of the fierce creatures are going to undergo changes as well, mostly having to do with their resistances to vulnerability. So keep that in mind. This is not going to be an all-encompassing review, but there are some things that I do want to touch on. First and foremost was the vulnerability change to the resilient creatures. And one last thing before I jump into giving you just facts, I honestly have no idea how this is going to shake things up. I don't have a feel. It could make resilient creatures even more broken than they already were. It could balance everything out perfectly, or it could have no change. I truthfully have no idea what to expect moving forward. But having looked over the notes, I have to say, like, everything but not getting the boost reset looks to be in the right direction. And the boost reset apparently is just a personal preference. So, there you go. Version 2.9 is known as the Tiny Flyers, and that's exactly what you think it sounds like. We're getting some tiny flyers in the game, and they are more flock creatures. As I mentioned before, there are 4 new creatures. The first one, I'm going to spare myself the embarrassment of trying to pronounce this thing, but yeah, it's these are flying lizards. For prehistoric flying lizards, and it's more of a glider. To me, I'm thinking of a sugar glider when I see this. I can't imagine a way that I would even come close to being able to pronounce this. It's yeah, so there it is. You see it's on the screen there. It's a flock, so it's going to have the absorbability. Alert the flock. We know whenever you swap in, you're going to bring one of your creatures back. Now, this is a common creature, so I'm not expecting really a lot out of this one other than just being a cool creature to have. It has some kind of a heal distraction. I'm not sure, that looks like a new move to me. Also, I want to say, going back to something why this isn't going to be like a full in-depth videos, I want to say 37 or 39 different creatures are getting changes, and there are a truckload of new moves that are being introduced as well. We're going to touch on some of those, but for the most part, I will leave a link down in the description below if you want to break out your glasses and your notepad and take some notes on the update. Impact and Run, we know what that one is. Oh, I see. Alert the Flock. As I'm scrolling through this, Alert the Flock it's going to heal and then bring back a creature. It's the alert where if your HP is above a certain level, one thing triggers. If your HP is below a certain level, then another thing triggers. And then the Impact and Run, the distraction, that's the move is under the title. Moving on, and that is the only comment. So we're going to move on into the Archaeopteryx. Said I might have said this one right. Archaeopteryx. Archaeopteryx, maybe. Archaeopteryx. I think I'm close on that. This, again, is another flock creature. Once thought to be the earliest bird that ever lived, Archaeopteryx name means ancient wing. Though tiny, this bird plays a giant role in the history. I think that says history of science, helping to prove the theory of evolution only 2 years after Darwin's On the Origin of Species was first published. It is a cunning distraction dodger, so absorb, that means it's a flock creature. You have alert, buff, and strike. That's going to be a new move. I'm not sure what to expect out of that. Evasive impact, I believe, is going to be a new move. And then delayed cunning rampage. Woo! Delayed probably means there's a delay of 1, but cunning rampage is that's a pretty brutal attack coming out of a rare creature there. So that actually could have some validity in tournaments that utilize rare creatures. If we move on to the Megalonyx. Whenever I hear Onyx, I think slam, do 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 do. Let the boys be boys. And I'm pretty sure that was Onyx, right? But this is a rare sloth. The giant ground sloth only went extinct about 11,000 years ago. Early humans may have had something to do with it, since cut-marked bones on Megalonyx in Ohio indicate it was hunted by Ohioan Paleo-Americans. Maximal counterattack looks pretty bad. We don't know the stats on these particular creatures, but it's going to do full damage. Cunning strike, we know what that is. Camouflage, we know what that is. And then cautious rampage. I believe we know what all of these moves are. And then we're gonna sprinkle in, what is it? The chef. We're gonna sprinkle in a little bit of a maximum counterattack to go with that. It looks pretty cool there, not gonna lie. And then we have a Colhast. And then we have the Colhast, which is the lone hybrid creature. It is a legendary. It's going to use the flying lizards that I have no idea how to pronounce, plus Hast Eagle. Unlike its hybrid parent, fill in the blank, the Colhast can not only glide on its wings, but also flap them to achieve true flight. It inherited this trait from the powerful Hast Eagle. So a flock that is a legendary that's going to rival Dodo Sevia, it looks like. Absorb, as all flock creatures have. Alert Roost. I want to say we know what that move is. I can't think. I think Dodo has it. I think has Alert Roost. Precise Piercing Strike. Fearless Alert. Sounds like a new move. Precise Impact and Run. And a Restricted Group Distraction. So definitely an interesting kit there. Like I said, gonna have to see this in action in order to know if it's good, if it's viable. Who knows? Without any kind of stats behind it, so your guess is as good as mine. And then we move on to new abilities. And let's see. Cautious Rampage. Cleansing Decelerating Impact. Delayed Cunning Rampage. Evasive Wounding Strike. Okay. Precise Impact and Run. Instant Group Distraction Impact. That's a mouthful to say. Revenge Definite Rampage. Yikes. That's a revenge move. I don't know who has that, but that looks kind of scary. Alert Buff and Strike. Alert Roost. Alert On Escape Evasion. Fearless Alert. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. No. It looks like 11. 11 different new moves. Not bad for only having 4 new creatures. That means some creatures you know and love might be getting new moves. We are going to get 1 new raid boss. The giant ground sloth, Megalonyx, is going to enter raids on August 5th. The update is going live on the 4th, so that means the next day. Is that Thursday? It's a Thursday. Look for that. We've got some new achievements. No harm, no foul. Place this creature in Sanctuary 13 times. That is going to be the Dodo. What's improved? Now, this has no bearing on the game in any way, shape, or form, but I still think it's an extremely cool new feature. If you look at this, you can now do AR photos that are integrated into your room where it looks like Blue here. I believe that's Blue. Where Blue here is peeking around the corner, through somebody's door. Also a scary thought, but that looks super cool. Whether it'll get used or not, probably not, but still, it doesn't have to be utilized a lot for it to be a really cool feature that I think is going to be overlooked, unfortunately. And then we have ability updates. This is where I was telling you how resilient creatures are no longer going to automatically have a slowdown move. Instead, they're going to have vulnerability moves. Now, it's not to mean no more slowdown moves, because some creatures are going to keep their slowdown moves. But on balance, a resilient creature, the default is going to be that it makes things vulnerable. So you have Resilient Strike is going to change from reducing speed 1 turn to being vulnerable 2 turns to attacks. You have Resilient Impact, which slowed down by 1 turn but did a little bit more damage. Now it's going to do a little bit more damage and leave your opponent vulnerable for 2 turns to attacks with a cooldown of 1. And then Resilient Rampage, again, it's going to lose the speed deceleration component, and it's going to change it to vulnerable 2 turns to attacks, cooldown of 1, and a delay of 1. We're also going to have swap in Resilient Strike. It's going to not slow down anymore. It's going to add the vulnerability, and the medium resilient counterattack, again, same as before, no more slowing down. Rather, it's going to apply vulnerable for 2 turns to attacks. Now, here's the thing that you guys probably know, and it kind of takes like a PhD in words to figure out the 2 turns, 1 attack, 2 turns, 2 attacks. I've shown a video just recently where something was, what was it? Was it, what was it? Was it Quetzal Ryan that was supposed to have a shield for 1 attack or 1 turn or something, and 4 turns later, it still had the shield up? So you're going to have to do your PhD in Ludia math in order to figure out, is it 2 turns to, like, what constitutes 2 turns to attacks? You know, sometimes, like, for example, on Scorpius Rex Gen 3, when you swap in and you're supposed to be sped up, or you're supposed to have an increase in crit chance for 2 turns, the turn you swap in counts as turn 1, but that doesn't apply to the evasive properties of your swap in. So it's, to me, to a layman, it seems highly inconsistent across the board. So I don't know. I'm just telling you right now, it says vulnerable 2 turns to attacks, but I would not be surprised if once you actually got in the game, that the turn that you attacked counted as turn 1. And so when they attack back, then, or maybe maybe when they attack, that's 1 turn. Then when you attack back to take advantage of the vulnerability, that is actually attack number 2. And there's no way to just stack vulnerables on top of vulnerables on top of vulnerables. I don't think that is going to be how this works, but I'm reserving the right now to say that I don't know Ludia math, and so don't hold me to that. I'm just saying, if you're thinking these are going to stack, I think they're not, and tomorrow we'll decide and know who is actually right. And the last thing that I'm going to touch on is creature updates, and I'm just like, it starts with Allosaurus, and as you can see, vulnerability resistances are going to be the majority of these, and it's primarily going to apply to fierce creatures. But I think 37 or 39, I'm not about to count them all again, have been changed. And so, I mean, there are some, like Parasaurolophus Lux, which had a lot of things changed. 2 things that I do want to touch on. Tovinator has Definite Rampage changed to Revenge Definite Rampage. That's something to keep your eyes on. And the attack got a tiny, tiny buff of just 50. But we'll see how the Revenge Rampage changes as opposed to Definite Rampage. And then Pucandactylus, look at that, is a pretty significant change here. Distraction was changed to Distraction. Impact, the abilities, the attack was changed by 150 from 1050 to 1200. The HP went up by quite a bit. Is that 300? From up to 4050, which is nice. The critical chance went from 10 to 15%. And then a bunch of resistance changes there. Most notably, speed decrease resistance went from 0 to 50%. You're still going to have to be pretty fast in order to not be bothered by something that's going to slow you down. But at the same time, you know, maybe with some boosts, I don't know. Maybe it'll work out for your benefit, and some other things like Smilonimes, Spinoconstrictor. I know a lot of people are excited about that one. And Testicornibus looks like it got a pretty substantial buff as well. Eutorhynix I find pretty interesting here. The attack only went up 50. The armor went up to 10%, which is kind of a big deal. That helps improve that HP a little bit. The critical chance just went up 5%, but now it's 25%. So 1 in 4 instead of 1 in 5. And then the damage reduction resistance from 50 to 75% could be pretty big. And any kind of a swap meta, Eutorhynix could find a new home. And then finally, the last thing that I want to touch on is Mortem Rex. I said I did not think that Ludia would really nerf any of the Apex creatures, and it looks like I'm already wrong, because if we look at this, Mortem Rex stun resistance was at 75%. Now it's down to 50-50. It's a coin toss. That seems pretty rough. And then the vulnerability resistance went from 50 down to 0. And now that we know that a lot of creatures are going to be applying vulnerable attributes to their opponents, having no resistance to that really could it really could shelve Mortem Rex for the general population, making it basically just a raid creature. But there you have it, a quick review of the patch notes. And 2.9, like I said, it looks like it's good. It looks like overall, overall, if you give us a boost reset, and I don't want to harp on this, but if you gave a boost reset, I'd say this would be just yet another great update in a long succession of continuous great updates. As is, I have my doubts, and I would like to see, with a change this big, I would like to see boosts reinstated or refunded back. But Ludia decided that they were going to forego that, and we'll roll the dice. We'll see where the chips land, and maybe you don't need the boost reset, and maybe we do. And if for some reason you have no idea what I'm talking about, I have a video right here that you can check out that'll let you know exactly why I feel like a boost reset was necessary.